You are listening to the In Between Sales Calls podcast with Derek Shebby, episode 20. Welcome, everyone. You know, I have a simple philosophy in sales. It also happens to be a success habit of all top sales performers. Here it is. No surprises. When I say surprise, I'm not talking about good surprises. I mean, those are great to have. However, usually you're hoping to get them, though, so they're not always a surprise. Unfortunately, watching a negative surprise happen is like watching a train wreck. It's ugly to see. Let me give you an example of one I witnessed recently. In our sales bullpen, you know, the area with a lot of salespeople making calls together, one of our sales managers wanted to show off and close a deal in front of everyone. He was overly confident that the customer was ready to buy. He was overly confident that the customer would give him great news. So there I was, cringing and listening as he put his sales rep's customer on speakerphone and asked, "Hey, it's Joe. I'm just checking to see if you're ready to move forward with our solution." There must have been 10 reps hovering around him listening with excitement. The customer said, "No, we aren't ready yet." There was an awkward silence, and I could see that this wasn't going to his plan. The customer's response surprised him. I could see it on his face. He was surprised. He then asked the customer, trying to get back into it, "Well, when do you think you'll have an answer?" Customer said, "I'm not sure, maybe later this week." Then he said, "No problem, will it be okay if I follow up on Friday morning?" The customer said, "Sure." His tone was filled with disinterest. I felt embarrassed for the sales manager. His overconfidence didn't allow him to prepare for anything. It was his fault that they would eventually lose that deal. He allowed himself to be surprised by not being prepared. Have you ever had this happen to you? When you call a customer looking for good news and you don't really get any? Well, it's quite common. Today's success habit will be incredibly helpful for you then. I'll say it again. The success habit is no surprises. Let's look back at this same everyday scenario where you're supposed to be following up on a decision. If you approach this from the angle of no surprises, you need to look at this call from different outcomes. It's important to look at it this way because it's about getting a deal, right? It's worth the preparation. It's worth thinking about all these different things. So what responses could the customer give? Number one, they could say, "Yes, we're ready to move forward," and they're moving forward with us. This is the easy outcome because you just talk about where they sign on the dotted line and what the next steps are. This is easy. Anyone could do this. You need to think beyond this outcome, though. And it's not being pessimistic or negative to think about this, to think about not getting the deal on this call. In fact, it's being very practical. I consider it being strategic. So that was number one. Number two is they could say, "Yes, we've decided to go with another vendor." I mean, this should trigger your objection handling skills. Hopefully this isn't a surprise, and you should have had a good idea on what their decision would be by this point. And think about it. If you knew that they were leaning towards someone else, you should have been going overboard with delivering as much value as possible before you reached this point of decision. You should have been treating it like you lost already and acted like you wanted to share with as much truth and overwhelming proof as possible to this customer so they could go your way, right? Now, they might not even care to give you a chance to overcome any objections if they tell you this. They might actually really want to go with the other company. Your response here should be graceful. Your response here should be to ask for one more chance. Your response should tell some logical story about how you fought with corporate, headquarters, your controller, your CFO to get them a better deal because you knew they were going to go with someone else. And you just need 15 minutes to present it in person with them later on today or the next day, and you want to really push for that. If you have a chance, that'll help you get back in control of the sale, if you can. Or number three could happen. And they could give you some excuse to why they aren't ready. They haven't met about it yet. They still have other vendors to meet with. Or things more pressing came up. Or just flat out, they don't know yet. You should expect this response to happen most of the time. Look, people get busy. You get busy. I get busy. We put things off. I have family that I should be calling that I've been putting off. I do. I'm busy. Do you? Are there people you should be calling? Well, do you think that it's a good chance the customer hasn't gotten around to making a decision about your solution? Is that possible? Absolutely. Don't be silly. It's human nature. You should expect a response like this. No surprises, right? Don't be surprised when it happens. So when they do respond this way, it should trigger your creating urgency response. Now let me explain using that same train wreck example from earlier. Hey, it's Joe. I'm just checking to see if you're ready to move forward with our solution. Customer says, no, we aren't ready. Now before, there was an awkward pause, right? Because it was a surprise to the sales manager. But you are expecting human nature to be involved, right? This is not a surprise. Instead, you say something that you prepared already that could sound like, oh, that's great news. I was hoping you hadn't made a decision yet because we just got word just today from our controller, our CFO, headquarters, whatever, someone else that's not you, that anyone who orders by Friday gets an extra special thing. I was calling to set up a time this afternoon or tomorrow to share this special in writing. What time works best for you? Now, this is just an example, but the idea is that you have something that you already have prepared to say. It does show that every call you make can be an effective one and one where you are in control of the next steps. You should plan in ways to think, what could happen here that would surprise me? Write all the scenarios down and plan a strategy around each. You could end up with the same strategy. The point is, you won't be surprised though, right? There's one more thing that must be done if you want to do this right. Any idea what it is? Come on, you've been listening now for 20 episodes. Okay, say it with me. Role play. That's right. So if you got that, pat yourself on the back. You need to role play these situations before you make that call. So practice for the surprising responses. Practice with your graceful reply. Practice for your goal outcome. And you'll surprise yourself about how great everything ends up. That's it for today's episode. Thank you for allowing me to join you on your sales journey. See you next time. Hey, if you enjoyed listening to this podcast, then you have to come check out my free 5-day sales training course of my proven Sales in 21 Days program. I designed it to help you make more money in sales. Whether you're looking for a fast start or just looking to sharpen your skills, you can't afford to miss it. Come get free access today over at www.salesin21days.com. That's www.salesin21days.com. I'd love to have you join the program. See you there.